Hey everyone, David Staub here. I'm back with my amazing wife, Maegen.
Hey y'all.
We are back for episode 2 of our podcast, Maegical Stories of Healing. We're doing this a little different. Yesterday, self-admittedly, this is our first time ever doing a podcast, and the podcast went a lot longer than we originally expected, and we didn't quite get to go into as much detail as we wanted to with the incredible healing experience of the ayahuasca ceremony. Usually when we do these podcasts, we're going to spread them out, probably one every Sunday, but we just didn't do it enough justice. We went through the trauma that Maegen went through when she was younger into her young adulthood, how as she suppressed it all and it started creating all these illnesses and this chronic pain, and these food intolerances and this anxiety and deep depression, and didn't know it was from that at first, so went through all the Western doctors and Eastern doctors and nothing was working, and we were divinely led towards ayahuasca, and then we got to ayahuasca and we basically had to sum it up in about 2 or 3 minutes, which literally doesn't no justice at all. So, moving forward with our podcast, of course, we're going to be interviewing people from all over the world, and just hearing about natural, incredible healing stories of people healing, whether it's from energy work or plant medicine, just natural ways. But for this podcast, we really wanted to do something different today and just finish up. This is part 2 of Maegen's story and really summarizing what the ayahuasca ceremony was like, what she went through, and all that. So we're excited to come back and chat with you. Before we get to the ceremony, though, because we're gonna, a big part of that right after the ceremony and after her healing is kind of a divine mission we felt we've been given to help the world heal in a couple ways. But before we get to that, there was a couple other things we skipped over too that we'd like to come back to. Maegen specifically really wanted to come back to and help everyone understand, and we think a lot of people may be able to relate to it in regards to when you first start getting these symptoms and you first start getting these sicknesses and this anxiety, all of that stuff, the first place you usually go to is the doctor. So Maegen, if you could tell us, what was your experience when all this started happening and you went to the Western medicine, your doctors, when you first started going that route? Tell us about your experience there.
Yeah, it was frustrating. So if you would have mentioned energy medicine to me, first of all, I'd never heard of that at that time in my life, but I would just been like, that's insane and ridiculous. And I wouldn't have done it, unfortunately. I wouldn't have done it.
Conditioning?
Energy healing.
Yeah, why wouldn't you have done it?
Because of all the conditioning, like I had been conditioned to believe that is just hocus pocus and like weird voodoo stuff that you don't need to mess with. So I wouldn't have entertained it at all. And, I started going to conventional doctors, and I saw a lot of different GI doctors, a lot of gastro specialists, and, none of that ever worked for me. It was a waste of my time. They would often, want to go straight to antidepressants. And it was like, you know what, look, and they wouldn't even know all the stuff that I went to. So not even knowing the trauma, I would always want to go straight to antidepressants. And even though I went through all those horrific things, like somehow I managed to still have fun in my life despite it all, even the chronic sickness. I still had a lot of friends, I always was involved in things. So I wouldn't say that I was depressed, like in a state that I needed antidepressants. If anything, it was like, no, dude, I get depressed after I eat something and my stomach blows up, and it's like that for like 9 days straight. Yeah, that's what's depressing, but it's not like I'm depressed first and then it happens. Are you following? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, it was frustrating. I had colonoscopies done, and that didn't show anything because now I know it was all on an energetic level. There's definitely an energetic body. There's definitely a spiritual level out there. And when your energetic body's sick and when your chakras are not, balanced, then yeah, you're going to have a physical illness in your body. And what causes, energetic sickness? Well, trauma, suppressed trauma causes it. And trauma can be, yes, the horrible traumatic things that I went through, but trauma can be like even something like your pet died, which I hold to a high regard because animals are amazing. But do you get what I'm saying? So like anytime you suppress trauma, because we are so conditioned to believe, oh, we especially men, like we can't cry. And it's like, that is the worst thing that we can do for ourselves, because later on in life, it's going to catch up to us. And the best thing that we can do is to cry and to feel it, because when we cry and we feel it, we release it out of our energetic body and we release it out of our physical body, and then the healing can begin or just stay, and that's what's so crazy. And the other thing that I want to hit on, so I don't forget, is before ayahuasca, I was doing my affirmations on healing. Since I knew affirmations were the bomb, I attracted energy. Now energy healing, but let me say I had tried different energy healing methods, and there were definitely several that did not work for me. I paid, those healers were not cheap by any means, and it did nothing for me. But when I really started honing in and not giving up and like just staying consistent with my healing affirmations, I did attract this shaman. And again, my family, not everyone in my family, but the majority of my family would be like, oh my gosh, do not go to a shaman. You're opening yourself up to like bad things. But I tried everything. I tried all the things that they would recommend me trying, and it didn't work. So,
Yeah, that's the difficult thing, not to cut you off there, but there's a whole nother topic on judgment we can do another time. But what frustrated us a lot, I know me and Maegen, was people try and say and tell you things to do or ways to act when they have no idea the experience you're going through. They're coming from a place having no clue what you're going through. I mean, we tried everything for all the things she had going on, and nothing was working.
Yeah, and this goes back to, I know we have to feel it to heal it. Oh, I like that. Feel it to heal it. That's our next little meme. There we go. Because, working with this shaman, what I learned was that it was very different than any other type of Reiki or energy healing work that I had done, chakra balancing, anything like that. But it was something so simple. That's the craziest thing. It's like, people are like, oh, affirmations, that's all it takes. Yeah, kind of pretty much. And it's that simple. But same thing with this healing. It's complicated, but yet it's so simple. And what I learned is I had to go back to like the time that I first felt that horrible fear or pain or anxiety, like during my abuse, I had to go back till I could remember that first memory that I first had that horrible, horrific feeling. And because I even tried like age regression, like hypnosis, and past life, none of that worked for me. So anyway, on a conscious level, actually, not even like me being put under, on a conscious state, I went back to those times and I felt that pain all over again and those memories all over again, with the guidance of this shaman. And basically, it was something so simple of her handing me a stone, me placing it on an imaginary stone at that, placing it on my hip, and just breathing into that stone and releasing, blowing what happened to me and that feeling that I was feeling again, blowing it into the stone, and then placing it on my hip and simply breathing into that space for a good 45 minutes to an hour. And yeah, going through it, sometimes I would start getting emotions and like I would cry or whatever. And that was good because I was feeling it, which was like the best thing that I could have been doing. And I was releasing it because I was crying, which was even better, and by the end of the session, and she would send, Reiki to me, but by the end of the session, I would feel a lot more at peace, and I will say, though, within maybe 4 days, something around that number, a few days after my sessions, all of a sudden, I would have it would bring all these things to surface, and I would actually start to feel them. And all of a sudden, I would have anger, and I didn't know why. And I remember one day, this is not like me. I don't stay in bed all day. And there was one day that it was like 4 days after doing that work, I woke up like angry, like rage and anger. I stayed in bed till like 6 p.m. And then finally at 6 p.m., I finally started releasing and I just started like sobbing, And I felt way better after each time of doing that. And so what I learned is like, wow, you know, there's something to this stuff, but I knew it would have taken me like 10 years, I feel like, of doing that on a consistent basis. So I'm not saying it, I mean, it does work. I feel like it just would have taken a lot of it to get me to where I needed, because I have such layers of abuse. And that's, you know, why, you know, led us to ayahuasca, and then that was the game changer. Right.
And something too, before we really get into the ceremony, and I think that's important to point out too with the energy healing, because man, I never knew anything about that world either. But when you're pushed to the point where you try everything and all you want is health, all you want is to feel good, and actual health and longevity, you know, you try these things, and it was incredible to see and actually witness that start to work, even if it was just a little bit. But one of the things to point out too that we wanted to come across, when you started doing the mindset work and you started doing meditate and affirmate, you started to like do your affirmations and you started to get this guidance and started to affirm healing. One of the interesting things, which we're not going to go super detailed on diet yet, because that can be a whole nother podcast on diet alone, but were there any specific things that you were led to that seemed to have a huge impact on your health?
Yes. So when I switched my affirmations to healing, I immediately attracted the medical medium. And I thought just everyone was seeing him all over their Facebook feed. But I was mentioning him to all my friends and no one knew what I was talking about. And he's awesome. One of the things that I started implementing that I have noticed definitely helps is he recommends that you drink 16 ounces of you juice your own celery, and you drink 16 ounces of celery juice on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, and then don't take any supplements, don't have anything else for like, you know, at least 30 minutes. And I definitely noticed a lot, like it is a medicine, and it does not taste great. I can't down it like David does, which makes me like so mad because I hate it. But yeah, I attracted it, and it immediately started giving me relief. And so that worked. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, as far as like juicing and like fruits and vegetables, I mean, I've eaten fruits and vegetables, but not like I'm talking like macrobiotic or like raw plant-based. Like I've been plant-based for a while, but not like raw, you know? And so that was huge. And, you know, I had severe hypoglycemia. And so doctors always have told me don't eat fruits. And I was reading what the medical medium was saying, which really went against that. And so I started eating like I would say it was kind of like a fruitarian. I like a lot more fruits than anything else. Like the majority of my diet would be fruits, and like a heavy emphasis on juicing my own juices, which I made amazing juices. Like I was like, this is great. Like I thought it was going to be hard, and I actually loved it. And man, inflammation, all these things, it totally helped. And then the biggest thing of all, you know, I went without gluten, dairy, and soy for 21 years. I'm like, oh my God, that makes me so sad. And I went to Italy. I can't believe it took me so long to get there. My favorite place on earth. I went to Tuscany, and y'all, I was eating pizzas every day, gelatos, cappuccinos. I mean, and I was feeling amazing. And I mean, I felt lighter, not heavier. And I was like, OMG. And so I kept thinking like, oh, it's you know, it's the way they don't pasteurize the milk, or they don't have gluten or whatever. And y'all, it wasn't even that. And it took a Japanese acupuncturist doctor to figure this out. And boy, was she spot on. And fortunately, it took 21 years to figure this out. But y'all, it was canola oil. So makes sense. In Italy, they don't use canola oil. Mm-hmm. Canola oil. And then the next thing was no soybean oil. But like vegetable oil being bad. So I started using coconut oil, avocado oil, and olive oil. Game changer. All the horrific, like when I thought I had food intolerances for all these different foods, y'all, when I cut out the canola oil and the soybean and still had cheese or whatever, I was amazed, or gluten, whatever. And anytime I would test it back out to have something with those oils, oh my God, all those debilitating symptoms came back. And I attracted all of these things to bring me clarity and knowledge. I feel like because I focus my affirmations on that.
Yeah, and it's hard to put into words what kind of realization that was, because, you know, in the years just we've been married and years we were friends, every diet you can think. We've tried every diet. I mean, you name it. Paleo, yes. Only meat, no meat, vegan, keto. Yeah. We've tried them all because we couldn't. It was so frustrating, near depressing to be like, what is it that's causing this?
Basically, you need to have an alkaline diet.
Right.
And drink alkaline water.
To actually, and this isn't even like a theory. This is our experience of this happening. She cut out wheat. I did it too, just out of support and because it's like unhealthy and it should do it. But she cut out the canola, cut out the vegetable oil, cut out the soybean oil, and mostly stuck to fruit and raw veggies. And man, no distension. Never felt, from a gut and stomach standpoint, I mean, that was just a game changer.
Also, I want to give another shout out to the medical medium, Anthony Williams, because, y'all, his recipes are delicious.
I never in a million years thought I wouldn't eat meat. Never thought I wouldn't eat meat. That's, again, for another podcast, but after a bit of an awakening process, I've cut it out for a while now, and his recipes are just incredible.
So good. I might use a little bit more salt than he says, but that's about it.
So we wanted to point that out because that was an important part of the journey, was really figuring out. And again, we're not saying this is the diet. I don't think there's any one diet.
It's what worked for me.
It's what worked for Maegen with that part of the healing. But of course, the gorilla in the room was that suppressed trauma, that all of that anxiety that was causing illnesses. So. Continuing to work that mind, do that mind work, the meditation, the affirmations, writing that you're thankful for the healing, it led us to ayahuasca. And is there anything else we wanted to mention before getting to the ceremony?
No, I think that's good.
Cool. Okay. So, didn't take too long to get caught up, but I definitely wanted to do this part justice. And you know, we're not going to go super long. We don't want to use the entire rest of the episode on it. We'll be going much more into detail on the book. We're writing a book of our story and both of our things we went through in the past, and more detailed stuff on the healing and the ins and outs and really just the overall story. But I definitely want to hit on this ceremony and what it was like. So there were 3 ceremonies. You can choose to do 1 ceremony, 2, or 3. We, knowing how extreme this case was, how deep the trauma was, at this point we did all our research, we've been through the trials and tribulations, we knew it was heavily, insanely repressed trauma that was deep in the subconscious mind that was causing all this. So you bet your ass we signed up for all 3 nights.
Well, I was at the end of my rope, and I was just desperate for healing, emotionally, physically,
Yeah,
so... But I was so nervous. Like, I was definitely afraid going into this and did not want to do it. I was quite terrified. But, again, it was just like, man, I read a lot of scary things, but I also read that people healed from it, right. You know? And if there's, like, any sort of chance at all that is for me, like, I have to do it. Even though I'm terrified, I have to do this.
I mean, I don't know how to paint the picture clearer, but everything has been tried and nothing's worked. So really at the end of our rope here. So signed up for all 3 nights, paid for all 3 ceremonies, and got to it. So the first night we sit down, we're all sitting around, and a big part of this was you have to just kind of surrender. You know, this is why it's important to do a lot of meditation the weeks before, and do yoga and kind of just allow the medicine to do the work that it does.
Breath work is huge. You know what helped me when it started to, in the very begin, to start to become intense, it was taking long, not just breathing, but taking long deep breaths in and even longer deep breaths out, like that definitely helps.
And specifically focusing on your breath. So all 3 nights.
And setting a great intention.
Yeah. All 3 nights were very different. The key to this too is setting a specific intention, but no expectation.
And the prep, like we stuck to the diet, which is very strict to a T.
You have to stick to the diet to a T. We were very good about that, which didn't have any problem sticking to diet, so that wasn't hard.
Yeah.
But you have to stick to that. Going with her intention, obviously, was healing on every level. My intention was clarity of purpose and clarity in general. So we went in with those intentions, but again, no expectations. So the first night, Megan, tell us how your first night went, and then I'll tell you about mine and what I observed of yours.
Yeah. Okay, so we had to go in. They talked to the people that have never experienced ayahuasca before, or that had never experienced it there. They had like a orientation where they go over it, and the whole time I just had extreme anxiety because I knew like an hour from that moment all of these crazy things of the unknown were about to happen. And I also knew that we were going to be there for 2 more ceremonies. So I was like, there's no need. I'm the opposite of David. I am not an extremist. So I was like, there ain't no reason for me to like go all in, like let me test the waters to see what this is all about since I still have more time. And so he was like, yeah, I will let you guys choose your dosing, but if you're new, we don't let you do. Do you remember what it was?
So there was 3 options you can do. Let's just, for simplicity's sake, there's 3 options. You can take a low dose, a medium dose, and a high dose.
Correct. Okay. So I took a medium. He was like, pick the number that resonates for you. And I'm like, 3. That 3 is a great number.
It was 1 to 5.
Yeah. So I said a level 3. And he had different options. He had classic ayahuasca, but then he had 5 MeO-DMT. But if you had never done ayahuasca, you weren't even allowed to do that. So I just said, okay, I will commit to doing a dose of 3 of the classic ayahuasca. And so that's what I took. I remember going up and drinking it. And for me, yeah, it's horrible tasting, but I've had some horrible teas that were very similar from acupuncturists that were like, or medicinal teas. But it's very thick. It's like a shot of it though. It's not like a big drink. And then I chased it with like an apple or something. And then you just go back to your spot and you just wait and you just focus on your breathing. And like for me, it was tough because there's all these other people in the room and you're very close to them. And they give you these puke buckets. So I'm just like, OMG. I was so terrified of puking. I had to get over that real quick. But that night, it was quite mild. I asked her, they say talk to Mother Ayahuasca. And so I was like, please be gentle with me. Please be gentle with me. I intend healing, but please be gentle with me. Because I knew all the horrible things that I could face. And so the shaman starts like rattling, making the noises. And it gets trippy. And like starts singing the songs. And most everyone enjoyed it when he would sing the songs, but for some reason for me, it would give me extreme anxiety. Very, very, very much so. And then there were certain songs, every time he would sing them, like everyone would purge, meaning puke. And I puked a little. It wasn't anything like too crazy, so I was just like relieved. I'm like, oh my God, okay, that was it. It wasn't pleasant, but like, okay. And that's really all it was. And I kept just kind of feeling tired. I just wanted the music to stop anytime he would stop. It just gave me such anxiety. But that's really all I experienced on ceremony 1. But because of that, I was also disappointed because I was like, what the heck? I came here to heal. That even though I was terrified of experiencing anything crazy, I was just like, I didn't experience much of anything at all. And so I was like, how is that going to heal me? And so I was very frustrated, and then that just part of me that like could get negative, or that darkness in me would just focus on that, and I was just so negged out about it. But to end on a positive, so like going back to episode 1, I don't even remember if I covered this. I'm sure I did, but insomnia has been a thing that I've dealt with for most of my life. Normally I can't get past like the 3-hour mark. And that night, and I always have to go to the bathroom like so many times, during the night too. But that night I slept for 7 hours straight, and I didn't even get up to go to the bathroom. And I felt pretty great the next day. I was still down and a little disappointed because I was like, dang, especially when you go to a circle and you hear everyone else's experience and they experience all these crazy things. And then I talked to David, which he can talk about his experience now, I guess, but I hear his experience. So I'm just like, what the heck, And so I still was very frustrated.
Yeah, what we later found out, now keep in mind, she hasn't slept more than 3 hours in how many years?
I mean, since I was
35 years. Anyway, what we later found out was the ayahuasca was simply letting her sleep and rest that first night to prepare her for what was going to be the most intense night of her entire life the following night. Okay, so not to leave you on a little cliffhanger there, but my experience was pretty different the first night. So as she said, I'm an extremist. I very much, whenever there's an experience, I want to know the full amount of the experience, which has led me down not so fortunate paths in my past, but that's for another topic too. But I definitely wanted to experience it. So I asked for the top dose. I wanted to go. I wanted to get clarity of purpose and all that. So I took my dose. I sit down. And a big part of this is letting go. So I sat there, started getting to my meditative stance, my meditative seat, closed my eyes, and then I start to shoot up. Like my mind goes to this place and I see all of these beautiful colors, and they're orchestrating in a very controlled motion. I felt like it was like one giant, beautiful machine. But the message that was coming to me, and it's hard to describe this experience, but I'm going to do the best I can here because it's very out of this world. But the message that was coming to me was, for this to work, I need to release and get into a flow state. So I said, okay, I kind of got that message. Focus deep on my breath and let go. Focus deep on my breath and let go. And then, bam, I took off. Like I just shot to this place. My body was there, but my mind was elsewhere. And there were all this beautiful being of all these different colors was there in front of me. It was this huge, beautiful being of colors. And I remember looking at it, and it looked at me, and it doesn't speak in the form that we're speaking, but it was a message that said, what do you want? Or what do you want to know? It was one of those two. And it was just the craziest experience. I remember looking up at it, and I came in with the intention of clarity of purpose. And that's what I kept trying to say. But when you're in this state, you can't help but say whatever is on your heart. Like you can't BS it, okay? So I went in there with clarity of purpose, but then I just lashed out and I said, all I care about is my wife's healing. That's what I want more than anything in this entire universe. That's all I cared about, was my wife's healing. We've been through so much, and that's all I wanted was her healing more than anything in the entire world. And I said this, and it shifted. It shifted, and it was like looking over at her. I could feel it looking over at her, who was there next to me. And then it looked over at me, and it gave me the message of, and I'll never forget this, I get chills just thinking about this, because this is what led on to everything we're doing now. It said to me, it gave me the message of, okay, you will get her healing. However, when I heal her, you must take this message to the earth. You must take this message and heal my people. And that was just obviously mind-blowing there. All I could really think about was the fact that this incredible, beautiful being said it's going to heal her. And you would think I'd be grateful then, but again, in this state, you cannot, you can't say anything that's not completely on your heart. So, and I was a little, I get enough disappointed in myself for doing this, but I lashed out after that. I didn't even know I had this in me to do this in that state, but I lashed out, and I remember thinking, why? Why does she have to? I mean, we've been through, I can't even put into words how hard it is to see your soulmate, your life partner, just go through so much sickness and illness and hurt and damage. And she's my world. And I felt so helpless because I couldn't do anything for these years. So I guess it was all pent up. I lashed out, and I was like, why? Why does she have to feel this pain? Why does she have to go through this? Why does she have to be sick? I don't understand the purpose. Why? And this is another hair-raising moment, but the colorful being moved over, and this incredible white light came down. This incredible, beautiful white light came down, and it said to me, only through experiencing great sickness will you truly appreciate great health. Only through pain can you experience and understand and be grateful for pleasure. And it said to me, because of all the sickness that she's experienced and everything you guys have been through with her health, Now and only now will you be able to truly appreciate every second of every day for the rest of your lives when she's healed. And that was a mind-blowing moment. I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't know what else to say in that moment. I said, okay. And my spirit was subdued, and then bam, I shot back down, and I was sitting there. And when I came back to around the circle, I was curled over in the fetal position. So apparently I was going through it. Little did I know. But I sat back up, got back, in my meditative position, and the shaman said, if you get messages, when you get these messages, when you're ready to receive again, go back into your position and focus on your breath. So I did that. And then I did that, and then a few seconds later I shot back up, and then it was just a few different messages I got. And I don't want to make the focus too much on me. I definitely want to get back to Maegen and her second night, but I got a few more messages through there. The next message showed me the Holy Bible. It showed me the Holy Bible, and it was a message of go study this and research this, and it showed me healing in plant medicine, and it said there's these messages within the Bible about plant medicine, about actual healing in plant medicine, and how it's all in there, and the combination of the law of attraction being in there. It was basically a message of go study this and find it, and find these messages in here about the healing of the plant. And later on, we did find out we have some incredible passages and verses from the Bible that talk about healing leaves, and that's all stuff we're writing in the book, though. But that was a big sign, was going to study the Bible. Then it shot me back, and then, oh man, what was it? What else?
Clarity of her
book. That's right. Oh my gosh. Then the next thing, it showed me Maegical, a story of healing, and it showed me the title of the book, because we always knew we wanted to write a book, but we couldn't figure out the title, so it gave me that. We always had
writer's block, ayahuasca had to happen.
Right. So that was amazing. I think that's all I can remember in the moment right now. You got to love these live podcasts.
Yeah, I gave you the title. I gave you the cover, what the book looks like. We know exactly how we want the cover of the book to look.
Right.
So you did get clarity.
So it was and at the end of that, it brought me back, and that was pretty much it for the first night. And then I remember coming back too, and then at the end, Maegen was just so frustrated. So we went back, went to sleep, and she just passed out. I've never seen this girl sleep so hard. We woke up in the morning, and she slept for that long, and she was pretty frustrated, obviously, because everyone had these incredible experiences. The next day, you all sit around a circle and you talk about your experiences, and everyone had these incredible, I would say 98% of people got what they went with the intention to get, and got this incredible clarifying things. And then Maegen was like, well, what the heck? So that was my first night. That was her first night. And then we get to night 2. And before I get into night 2, there was a lot of tension and anxiety right before it happened. There were multiple times where this, whether you call it darkness or repressed anxiety within her, tried to have her back out right before. So Maegen, how are you feeling going up to it? Tell me about your experience right before your second night, where this stuff really kicked off. If open dialogue, tell me about that.
Yeah, even though I had got a taste of ayahuasca, I still heard and saw, it still gave me anxiety that was not pleasant, and I still heard everyone else's experience. I'm hearing people puke their guts up, and cry, and I had talked to the shaman. By this point, I talked to the shaman, told him I was frustrated, told him my story, and that I desperately needed healing. And so he had told me I was getting a stronger dose. And I think knowing that I was getting that stronger dose, it just gave me severe anxiety, because it just did. I was very anxious. I was wanting to back out. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there was something there, like a dark entity that knew that if I were to experience this, I was going to have profound healing, and it did not want me to have that, or release it, which it did not want, So I believe that was also giving me anxiety and wanting to back out last minute.
Yeah. It was, it was really interesting. And, you can imagine we're out here, we're this far, and I was trying my best not to get frustrated about it. A lot of prayer. I got to say, one of the things that held me strong, I had a rosary with me, and I just kept holding on to that, and just having faith that whatever was going to happen was God's will, and everything was going to work out the way it was supposed to. I did a lot of prayer, a lot of affirmating, and it was right before it all happened.
Well, and the people there are just so nice.
Oh my gosh.
The most genuine, non-judgmental, just amazing people. Like, if everyone in the world were like these people, my gosh, what a different world it would be. But they would talk to me. There'd be people that, a girl that had been through what I'd been through as far as like sexual abuse, and she was able to heal through ayahuasca and find healing. And so, there was people there, even guys, men that would come in and talk to me and just be like, make me feel so comfortable, when it's such a vulnerable thing to talk about, And the other thing is, the shaman knew how anxious I was and scared, and so he said, they already sage everyone before the ceremony starts, but he had said that he was going to do something for extra protection, that people that needed like healing like me, it had really helped in the past. And I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but it was basically like, he described it as like a fungus that grows on, was it wood? I don't know. It was like a diamond shape, I believe. And so he was going to come down to my room and protect me with that before I even went up to get the sage protection going into the ceremony.
Yeah. So something that Maegen had a very specific case, and out of everyone there, I'm not taking away from anyone there, a lot of them had, everyone came there with something that had to do with healing, but Maegen's was so severe, and I pulled the shaman aside and I spoke to him specifically about that, him and his wife that were both there. We explained in detail, so they decided to do a very specific healing ceremony for her. What is the name of it? Can you look up the name of it? There was it starts with a C.
Yeah,
It's blown my mind. So during the second because of how severe it was, there's this one extra thing they can do, and Maegen's looking up the name of it right now, but it's where they pull you to the center in the middle of the ceremony and bless you and ask Mother Ayahuasca to heal every part of you, and it's just this extra healing ceremony. And they said they were going to do that for her during the ceremony because of how serious it was. You can just keep looking.
I don't know if that's it. Would start to see it's what it is the Spanish term for healing, and it starts with the C.
Yeah, look that up.
That's what I looked up. For some reason it gave me corona.
So anyway, we go into the second night because, and it was pretty divine how this happened. The shaman's wife actually moved Maegen to be right next to her because they knew what was going on. They knew all the trauma, and they let me sit next to her as well. And right before this kicked off, you're not supposed to touch each other. You're not supposed to converse, nothing like that during the ceremony. The shaman's wife looked over at her and said, "You guys can hold hand. You can hold his hand during this." Which we both kind of looked at each other. We were like, "Oh man," it's kind of like, "Oh my gosh, here we go."
Well, and I got to be next to her, which was comforting and which was necessary looking back. And like we were in like a nice cozy corner spot, and no one else was near me. I was in between him and her, and so I was going into it with and then the shaman next to that lady. Times when he wasn't moving around the room. So that right there allowed me to, be able to relax a little bit, going into it.
Yeah. So we kicked off. The shaman suggested a higher dose for Maegen that time, and I took the highest dose you can as well. So we went into it, and I guess you want to explain what you felt, and I'll explain what I experienced, because this was, I don't know how else to describe it other than the most terrifying but beautiful experience of my entire life watching this take place. What did you say you started feeling, and tell me how it started?
Let's back up to dosage. So that night I took a dose of 3 of the classic ayahuasca, but then he did a +1 of the 5-MeO DMT, which is the most powerful psychedelic in the world. And it's crazy because it is the poison that is off the back of a toad, of a frog in the Amazon. I mean, crazy. And oh boy, is that what took me to where I needed to go. So started getting anxious, and I was, utilizing my breathing, long breaths in, long breaths out. And the maestro would hold my hand and check on me. And then David, was squeezing my hand. And then I had to grab the puke bucket. And y'all, I had hardly eaten, okay? And I'm talking violently. I have never puked like this in my life, even when I had horrible projectile vomit from horrible food poisoning. Like, I've never puked like this. I was just like, it was crazy. I felt like I was in, it was like a poltergeist situation, insane. And here's the other thing too. I very much used to be the kind of person, I didn't like the center of attention. I didn't want to be a lot of eyes on me. And I was the show star that night for sure. But I started violently puking for hours. And it's I almost couldn't breathe in between breaths. And I'm talking it just flying out and lots of it. And it was black goo and...
Yeah, it was so the name of the healing ceremony is a curacion, by the way. It's a curacion. It's a very specific extra healing ceremony whenever it's a specific case. But I remember sitting there, and then all of a sudden she starts convulsing. And the amount of ayahuasca you take is a small shot glass, right? And literally a bucket full of this black goo is just coming up, convulsing over
bucket
and over.
Bucket after bucket.
It was so intense.
And it went on, and it seemed like it was never going to end. And I was just thinking, I felt like I was dying. It probably looked like it.
It did.
I felt like I was dying. And I was just like, God, just please let me survive this experience. And I was just laying there, finally, after hours of me doing it, I finally stopped. And I'm just laying there, just oh my God, just feeling half alive. And I think I had enough energy to lean back to David and say, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah. During that too, all I could do was, and here's the crazy part, I took the strongest dose you can take, and this says something about it's not so much the medicine as it is the spirit that is healing you, because I took the strongest dose, and within 15 minutes, I was completely sobered up because my purpose in that moment was to be there for Maegen. So she went through that and just was completely limp, and then the curacion started.
Right, so the shaman came up and was just it's time. I need you to go to the center of the room, go into the center of the circle. And I was just I can't walk. And he was crawl if you must, but you need to do this. And they would not allow David to help me. They're no, she needs to do this on her own. And so then I start crawling, and I'm crawling in the freaking wrong direction. And so one of the sitters had to come and help me get in the right direction to where I needed to be. And out of nowhere, and so he starts, calling in the, plant spirits, and all of a sudden, I didn't even know I was about to do this. I just started deep sobbing, and I've never heard anyone cry like this, and I know that I've never cried like this, and I feel like David would say the same, right?
Yeah, it was this deep, penetrating sob and just bawling and crying. It was all that.
So what I can say is that I could feel it. It's hard to explain this, but even as I was puking, it's crazy, but I could literally feel trauma leaving my body. And I also could just feel deep, deep sorrow on a soul level. And so when I was in the center and that deep sobbing started, it was crazy, y'all. And it went on for a long time. And what I can say, again, sounds totally nuts, but it was my spirit crying. It was my soul was crying, and literally all of that trauma was leaving. And I was convulsing though, during the healing. I started convulsing, and I literally do believe it was an exorcism. I do believe that there was something dark, and it released out of me, it came out of me during that healing, and my body was just convulsing. And even finally, when most of my body wasn't convulsing any longer, my leg, still was, and I couldn't move, and it was so crazy, you guys, so crazy. Again, I slept great that night.
Yeah, so after that was done, she was brought over after that whole thing, and she was just completely passed out and went limp. I could tell she was breathing, so I knew that was okay. But even during the ceremony, you're not supposed to touch at all.
You were holding
the
me.
lady let me, the shaman's wife allowed her to lay on my chest. So the rest of the ceremony, I I held her, and then I just felt these deep, deep feelings of gratitude, and I held her. And even though she hadn't spoken yet, I knew in my heart that was it. I knew it. I knew that was it. In witnessing this, it was like that little girl was up there within her. Like
I felt like
her inner child was processing the trauma that her inner child went through and suppressed, the trauma that she suppressed.
I went back to a little girl, absolutely. I forgot to mention that, but absolutely, I went back to being that little child again.
And it was... So the hours of the purging and then out there and that convulsing, it was so difficult but beautiful for me to watch as her soulmate, as her life partner. But I knew, I mean, God was with me. I knew he was just assuring me that everything is happening for our highest good. I knew that. I was holding that rosary to my forehead, praying and affirming, and it was so intense. And then she just collapsed right on my chest, and then I just held her the rest of the night, held her the rest of the ceremony, and then I carried her all the way to the room at the end of it, and
I slept great.
That's it. We woke up.
Slept great, and I woke up a different person. I was completely different. One thing I think I mentioned in episode 1 is that I was a chronic nail biter, like severe case of nail biting, and I could not control it, and I've done it my whole life since I was a child. And tried everything with that too, hypnosis, like all sorts of things. Anyway, never worked. And ever since that ceremony, I've not bitten my nail once. Like, I mean, my nails look great. The anxiety that was always in my chest, gone. The PTSD, gone. The popping joints, the dislocating joints, the neck pain, all of that, gone. You know, I will say, I think it's fair to say that I got about 80% healing, but it's like an onion, you know, you got to peel the layers. And yeah, the only things left, I would say, are, you know, my insomnia, and just got to work a little bit on still some of my little intimacy things, and working through the food stuff. But like, I literally got 80% healing in one crazy night experiencing ayahuasca and 5-MeO-DMT, and I'm forever grateful. And it is a medicine to treat with respect. You know, I am going back, even though I am quite nervous about going back. I am going back for another ceremony in the spring with the intention of healing those things, healing that insomnia, and I do believe I will receive that healing.
Yes, absolutely. And I know it's a minor thing, but the nail biting, that was mind-blowing, because, and not to put it out there, but your fingers were the nail was gone. She would chew it to the point it was off the whole time I've ever known her, and just not one nail biting since then. I'm
self-conscious too about it.
Yeah, but it's as her partner too, it's incredible, because before that, with all that constant anxiety and that rage, any kind of thing that would go wrong during the day could set her on a negative pathway, just this spiral downward. And now she's the same person, but she's totally different. Right. She handles situations perfectly. It's like you're healed.
Well, and it's like the mindfulness stuff, the mindset stuff got me so far. You know, like it's like a triangle. Like that's part of it. You've got to get your mindset in check. You've got to utilize meditation, but more importantly, utilize, in my opinion, affirmations. And then the breath work, going back and feeling it, but then really just taking that, just going straight to ayahuasca for me, because that's what it did. That's why I know energetic healing is true, and energetic sickness is real, and it does cause physical sickness. And now I know that you have to, when you suppress trauma, it will catch up to you one day. Because I didn't think it would. I was like, I'm strong, but no, it did. And you have to go back and face it and feel it and purge it, release it, and then once you release it on an energetic level, then it releases out of your physical body, and that's when, y'all, the healing starts to take place. It is so amazing.
Yeah, and we woke up the next morning, and this is how all this started. I had such a clear, beautiful, divine message of now go. I'll never forget it telling me to go take this message and heal the world. And I knew in my heart, I woke up with the vision and this message of create a space. People in the world need healing. Mother Earth needs healing. The people of the world need healing more than anything right now. The first step to healing, you need a place. You need a place where you can go and you can come that is non-judgmental. We live in such a freaking judgmental world right now, and it scares people from getting what they need to get. So I was told to create a space, a place where people can heal. People can openly talk about it. Share your story without regard for judgment, without regard for other people's opinions. Be there to help and assist and have an open, non-judgmental heart.
And feel safe spiritually, because I struggled with that for so long when I started learning and playing around with energy healing because of the way that I was raised. And now I consider myself, a metaphysical Christian, So I just want people to know that they can feel safe, because I understand being afraid if you were brought up to believe that doing something like this is just completely wrong. I'm here to tell you that I experience safety and healing, and I feel closer to the Holy Spirit than I've ever felt.
Right. And it goes back to judgment. We live in such a world of judgment, and it was such a big step after that. Maegen, which, I think you can say that you always struggled with fearing what people thought, what your family thought, what your friends thought.
Which I do not give two shits about now. I don't care what anyone thinks about me now, which is so amazing in itself. So amazing.
Yeah, because it's our experience. You can't tell someone their experience is incorrect. And after trying everything, this is what healed us. And it was so beautiful.
And we have such big plans for Maegical. There's so much we want to do. Like, we don't want to just write this one book. We want to write a series of books. And we want to have other people submit their stories of healing and their ayahuasca experiences. And we want to one day have retreat centers. And, we literally want to, help everyone because of what we experienced that saved both of us. And, you still have to yet tell your experience and your story, David.
That's right. And that'll be on the next episode. I keep pushing this out. On the next episode, I'll talk about my addiction and what brought me through addiction, from what brought me through it, with the meditation, the affirmations, the reprogramming the subconscious mind, some psychedelics, relationship with God, all of that. I'll get into that. But we woke up with that vision of knowing we wanted to create a divine message, to create a place. And it's crazy. As soon as we got back, we launched Maegical, a place for healing, which is this Facebook group, and it's grown to 1,500 members in the past 2 months. And it's just a safe place for people to come that are on the path to healing and wanting to know how to heal, and in an open, safe place where there's no judgment, there's not negativity. It's just people with an open heart that are all trying the best they can, and it's grown so fast. And then God placed it in my heart to start the podcast, and we wanted to kick this off. And the last thing too that we wanted to get out there, and it's been such a game changer, specifically for some of my employees and some of our friends too. What the key thing that really helped Maegen shift her financial life early on, and then attract me, and then attract what she needed for healing, was something she created called Meditate and Affirmate, M-A-E.
Yeah, meditate.
Meditate and Affirmate. And it's just this, if you want to explain that.
Yeah, so I explained on episode 1 how I, practice meditation, playing affirmations, writing, all that good stuff. It completely changed my life. I went from living paycheck to paycheck. I explained, how I was at a job, 20,000 base. Other than that was commission. And for 4 months, I didn't close anything, didn't make any money. And then I started practicing these things and using affirmations. And that year, I was in the top 10. I was number 7 out of a company of over 3,000 people, and made a lot of money. And so I use that in other areas of my life, which I've explained, and it's worked. And so I call this Meditate and Affirmate. And I basically meet with clients and I find out what are their traumas, what are their fears, so I can turn their fears into an affirmation, because when you focus on your fears, you attract them, and your subconscious mind controls 95% of your day. And so I find out also what are their goals, what are their dreams, and I create customized affirmations for them. And I find really amazing music, and I, I usually write something inspirational in the beginning, then I write their meditation that's guided, customized for them, leading into the affirmations, and they repeat after me, and then getting into where they're in a more relaxed state, where I actually just start dropping affirmations into their subconscious mind, wrapping up with something similar to, a Shavasana. And then we end, on an angel reading, as well as writing. They write their daily gratitude, They write their affirmations, they write their intention for their day, and I get them into, feeling good, because it's with our thoughts and feelings that we create. And y'all, the people that I've been working with, like, they're reaching out and they're thanking me because they're seeing the results. And I'm like, yes, this stuff works. You just have to do the work. You have to be consistent with it. But it really is this simple.
Really is. We have a conscious and subconscious mind, and it's reprogramming that subconscious mind. But we wanted to share all that with you. We're so excited for Maegical. We're so excited for we're excited for the rest of this series. We're gonna be interviewing people from all over the world, hearing about what they went through, how they naturally healed. We want to create such a beautiful community of people wanting to heal, people that have healed, helping other people, sharing their stories in this open, non-judgmental place of love. And we're so excited, and we thank you all so much for listening. The next episode, I still haven't spoke about mine, so I'm actually it's not near as crazy and intense as Maegen's, but it's definitely, there's a lot of validity to it, because I had a lot of addiction issues early on. I had a lot of addiction issues, a lot of drinking issues, and just finding escapes in instant gratification, short-term type things. And I tried all of society's ways to get over addiction, and they're all society's ways. I'm sorry, and this is just my experience again, but they were ass backwards for me. They didn't work. So once I took it into my own hands and did a lot more mindset work, I was able to overcome my addiction, and I'll talk about that in the next episode. And
yeah, just wanted to say thanks for listening, you guys, and happy healing.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And yeah, if this resonated with you, please share it with a friend. And we can't wait for what Maegical has in store and what we all have in store together. Happy healing.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.